Welcome back to Comic Book Straight Talk. This is Captain Dalian.
This is Terry the French Tickler French.
Eric the Knucklehead Eaton. And this week we've got a special guest host.
Kenny.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
Just Kenny.
We're going to discuss horror comics, horror in comics, actually. Really from the Golden Age to current, kind of go a little in-depth on some stuff. And
Kenny, you're a huge collector. What kind of horror comics do you like?
I pretty much like the Warren magazine stuff, Creepy, Eerie, Vampirella, that type of stuff. Wrighton, Corbin, all the Spanish guys.
Okay, what got you into them?
Vampirella.
Oh.
I came into comics during the Bad Girl craze, and Vampirella was always one of my favorites. And I completed a run of the Warren Vampirellas and then decided to move on to the Creepies and Eries.
Oh, how big a run is that?
Creepy is 145. Eerie and Creepy are both around 145, and Vampirella is 113,
Okay.
plus an annual and a special.
Do you still stay up with any new horror comics?
Absolutely.
Which ones now do you enjoy? Because I know they still do some Vampirella, like Harris Comics does a lot of her stuff now.
Yeah, but her stuff's pretty much, it's basically superheroes with vampires.
watered down.
Yeah.
Horror down, yeah.
No, some great horror books out right now is Harrow County from Dark Horse. And my personal favorite that I think is the best zombie book out there is Afterlife with Archie.
Oh, okay.
And then the Chilling Tales of Sabrina's are really good too.
And there's probably people going, gee.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean,
I think that's what makes the series so good, though, is that those are the last characters you would expect to be in that situation.
Well, and they took a big chance on that. Paid off real well for them.
Plus, never hurts to have Frank Avila
He
draw it.
is a good artist, yes, especially a horror artist.
Did you follow Archie with the regular Archie series, like Archie and Me, Archie and Jughead, Reggie and Me, any of those?
Well, I've always liked Sabrina, of course, Josie and the Pussycats, because who doesn't like women in cat suits?
You're a big Catwoman fan yourself
The best.
as well. Terry, are you much of a horror man?
I do enjoy the horror comics, yeah.
Okay, what kind of horror comics do you like?
Just like everybody, I think everybody likes, the ECs, the Creepies, Eries. I collect a little smidgen of everything, really.
You're a big House of Secrets,
House of
House of
Mystery guy.
Secrets, House of Mystery stuff. Really big on the House of Mystery I Vampire run. That was a great run. Really good story. Great clue to art. Definitely should pick that up. I actually finally collected it about, 4 years ago, maybe longer. I didn't like the recoloration of it, but it was collected, so worth checking out.
Didn't DC do an I Vampire series, a standalone one, not too long ago? Was it-
Yeah, they did it. The new 52, they
52.
did I Vampire.
But that was kind of a Twilighted version in a way.
And you
was
love
bad.
It's bad. No, Terry loves Twilight.
Terry loves Twilight.
He's seen all the movies.
You've
First
seen all
opening
the movies
nights,
twice. Opening night.
actually.
You stay to the end of the credits. We're not really sure why you're hoping Nick Fury would show up or something and talk about the vampires. How are you going to help them? And watch out for the wolves.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
No. But I did recently watch Salem's Lot. It just came out on Blu-ray.
Oh,
finally.
yeah, you're a big fan of that.
And that
How was it?
Awesome. The Blu-ray looked really nice.
Captain, are you much of a horror fan?
Today horror, not too much. I'm more like Terry mentioned about the ECs, the 40s, 50s stuff. The Haunt of Fear, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, that kind of
Okay.
stuff.
So, Kenny, what was it about Bronze Age horror stuff that really got you collecting and really enjoying the reads?
It was the Spanish artist, Esteban Maroto, Jose Gonzalez. Not sure how you say his name. I think it's Enrique. Did a lot of covers for Vampirella.
Mhm.
There's like a ton of them, but it was really those Spanish artists. Just all of them were just
And their style
Awesome.
was awesome. It wasn't like your traditional, art. It was moody.
And it's like we were talking about earlier. It's a shame that Jose Gonzalez left comics because he didn't want to be known as the Vampirella artist, and yet his art had a bigger impact on Vampirella than I think any other artist had on any other book, except maybe Frank Miller on Daredevil.
So now the Vampirella magazines, the Eries, the Warrens, those are the ones that are magazine size. For a new collector, is one of those series not too expensive? It's a pricey series.
You could probably put a run of Creepy together the cheapest. Vampirella, maybe. All I can say is Eerie #1 is one of those books that's name your price. If you have one, you can get whatever you want out of it.
If it even really exists.
Yeah, there's only 500 known to be printed. The last
And
one
there are
I saw,
counterfeit versions too.
There's
Right.
counterfeits, yeah.
and even the counterfeit versions sell for money. So.
But I think most of the artists that you've mentioned and stuff, I know some they did back and forth a little bit. Most of the stuff did Creepy, I think.
Well, Esteban Maroto drew all three of them.
Okay, he did. Okay.
Enrique, I'm not sure how you say his name. He did a lot of covers for Vampirella.
Okay.
Now with the horror magazines, is there any characters that stand from them that kind of went mainstream to mainstream comics?
Oh yeah, Werewolf by Night, Tomb of Dracula. It's always the problem is when they take these great horror characters and then move them into the main universe like DC did with Swamp Thing. He was so much better when he was by himself.
Well, that's like
Of
Ghost
course,
Rider.
you had Bernie Wrightson drawing it too.
Do you consider the Swamp Things probably his best works?
Bernie Wrightson,
Yes.
Frankenstein.
You think so?
For detail, Frankenstein.
Yeah, his Frankenstein
Yeah.
is beautiful. That's not really a comic, though. I mean, it's
It's illustrated.
an illustrated
novel.
story,
novel.
but it's definitely, if you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out. It's beautiful.
Bernie Wrightson's best stuff, I think, was at Warren.
So with horror stuff, do you see more of the collectible market going down? As far as, do you see younger collectors getting into horror style books, or
Horror
more kinda-
had its big heyday in the golden age, and it's always been sort of a niche. And then once superheroes started coming about, superheroes took over. Horror still has its following, but it's still a niche area.
I think it goes in waves. Superheroes are what made comics.
Right.
Okay, and then the horror came around, and they were real popular in the 50s. And then the Silver Age happened,
back.
and superheroes took over again. And then in the Bronze Age, that's when you started seeing more horror books and crime books and fantasy books like Conan. And then, in the 80s was the big independent craze. So you had all kinds of stuff. But then in the 90s was the bad girls and superheroes again. So I think it just happens in waves. But I think horror comics will always be around.
What is it about the horror storyline that you prefer?
That
I mean, with superheroes, most of it's based somewhat with real world situations, real world places, but kind of a fantasy.
Right.
As far as a kid got bit by a spider, a guy came from another planet.
And I think the horror stuff is the same way. It's a fantasy, but it could happen. Now, who's to say that ghosts don't exist? We don't know.
I think it's more grounded in reality
Yeah.
more than anything.
I think
Especially
the reason I like horror comics more is because they're not superheroes. I mean, even the superheroes I read, most of them are powered down. Black Widow, who has very little powers, or Catwoman, who has no powers.
I just
Although
think
Spectre,
Yeah.
about the most powerful character there
Yeah.
is.
I just find the horror just a niche that just really interests me. I like to. A lot of it involves a little bit of mystery, a little bit of chill to it,
Some
a
suspense.
little suspense. Just a genre that just you can read late at night, and gives you a little spook, stepping on your gravestone or something.
So for current people's pool list, horror wise, what would you suggest? If they wanted something on the lines of that
Afterlife
kind of
with Archie.
feeling,
Yeah.
just Afterlife with Archie.
Afterlife with Archie. Harrow County.
Harrow County's been really good.
And Harrow County's like more of a really creepy type book.
Also, I mean, although it's not just horror, it's also a little bit mystery suspense. But Fade
Fade Out.
Out, very
Well,
good.
Fade Out was crime. That's
It was
a hard-boiled.
It did have some demonic stuff going on to it.
No,
as
you're
well.
thinking of Fatale.
Fatale. Excuse me. Yeah, Fatale. Check out Fatale.
Fade Out was in 40s
Right,
Hollywood.
So this time of year, is this when you pull out your old magazines, your old Eries, your old Warrens, and reread them? Or, I mean, what do you do with yours, Kenny? How many times have you reread your Vampirillas?
You know, I have never read the entire Warren run. I got up to issue like 91 or 92. No, I get so many new comics now, I hardly ever have time to read the back issues. I've read Vampirella 1 through 7, which is her origin story, and it's funny because those are the most corny stories you'll ever read, but I've read those 4 or 5 times.
So what is her origin for the listeners that don't know?
She was born on a planet called Draculon that had rivers of blood instead of water, and the rivers of blood dried up, and about the same time that all of them died off, a NASA shuttle crash landed on the planet, and she killed the 3 crew members and flew the shuttle back to Earth.
Oh, okay, very cool. Now, Marvel, I want to say, like 06, they did a Dracula series. I believe DC has done pretty close to that. For the newer, besides the Harrow County, do you think anyone, or the Afterlife, do you think anyone's done Dracula correct? I mean, do you like the Dracula horror? Or?
I think the best version of Dracula was the
old Tomb of Dracula.
the old Tomb of Dracula's for one, but then he kind of went superhero-y.
Yeah.
Is the one that Dick Giordano did? It was that Marvel recently reprinted.
Yes. Yes.
I can't think who the writer was. It wasn't a good one.
Was it Roy Thomas?
It may have been Thomas. It may not be. But yeah, I think that has been the best version of Dracula.
That was a 4-issue miniseries, right?
Yeah, 4-issue miniseries.
Yep.
It was beautiful.
Was that the one that Topps did?
No.
No, Marvel did this, and I think it was a reprint.
You're thinking of the one that Mignola did the covers to?
The
Yeah.
Bram
Yeah.
Stoker's Dracula, yeah.
Yeah, because I think
For
that
the
was
movie
a
adaptation?
maybe a 4-issue series.
There was one Topps one that they did. The art was just horrid inside of it, but the story was pretty good.
With the horror, are you guys more into the graphic, painting the image we had of someone
slasher horror?
Yeah, slasher, or do you like more of the suspense,
I like
kind
more
of
of the
edge of your seat, you're going to get
suspense.
scared, and, oh my gosh, he's in the closet, don't open the closet.
I'm more of a suspense one.
Okay.
Like I said, I love the old EC stuff. I read some little, Night Trip's one of the newer ones. That's not too bad. It's for horror. It's been pretty good.
It was Wolfman and Colon.
Colon.
Colon,
Okay.
yeah.
Colon. Okay.
What about you, Terry? Which kind of horror do you like?
Well, I think I said it earlier, suspense, a little bit of mystery in there.
Wolf Cop.
Wolf Cop, yeah, Wolf Cop just came out. Just picked up Wolf Cop.
Was it any good?
I don't know if I'm ready yet. I'm
Oh.
excited.
Okay, well, I haven't picked that one up.
And see, for me, I'd like to, and I've read a little bit, not a whole lot, of the Conan writer.
Thomas?
Roy Thomas.
No, their creator. I just drew a blank on his name.
Robert E. Howard.
Robert-
Thank you. Yes, his horror stuff I've read some of,
Yeah.
and it's really good. A novel, not comic wise, but
Clark Ashton Smith.
I haven't read any of his. And I've been wanting to get into Lovecraft. I know you're a huge Lovecraft fan. To me, it's like there's just so much daunting history with it, though. I mean, stuff I feel you have to know, and just
Now, with the direction that Marvel and DC are kind of going media-wise with movies, you see Marvel branching off into movies with characters that weren't really mainstream as far as Ant-Man. They're doing the Black Panther, which Black Panther before has had a following, but he's not, you've heard more of Avengers than Black Panther, more Captain America than Ant-Man. Do you see Marvel or DC kind of relighting and trying to do more horror?
I think DC will eventually try Swamp Thing again.
well, they've announced a Justice League Dark animated movie, and they've shown some of it, which is going to have Swamp Thing.
And then we had Constantine.
right, and
Right.
Constantine, yeah.
We got
Marvel,
Lucifer.
yeah, Lucifer's been
Lucifer's more of a comic.
Lucifer's
though.
more of a comic.
Yeah.
Best
they-
show on TV, by the way.
It is, yes. They've announced a Blade 4,
Okay.
so Marvel is going back to do Blade.
Oh,
Is it
wow.
going to be his daughter?
I think it's going to be Wesley again.
He needs money.
He has to
He
pay those
needs
taxes,
money. Yeah, he's got
He's
Yeah,
paid
pay
his debt to society.
to
Well,
pay them tax.
I think they have a rich history of horror characters that they could utilize, and if they do it like they're doing their superhero movies, I think they could have some winning movies.
I think if
DC
they
could
did it
definitely pull
Kind
it
of
off.
darker, more adult, R rating. You could probably get a nice fan group gathering, kind of mainstream deal. I think they could light it up that way as far as people enjoying it again.
I think DC really could with the Vertigo stuff.
Yeah,
well,
some of
especially
the-
that one that three of us at the shop collected, the Hill, Covington Hill,
Oh, Coffin Hill.
Coffin Hill.
I think really their best bet would try to get to have Netflix do the shows for
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Netflix is pretty.
It needs to be
But-
dark and gritty.
Netflix they're just like raising up their hands going, dude, we can't make every TV show,
Yeah.
but I think they should.
So
Death.
do you consider yourself
Dead
more
Boy
horror
Detectives.
or superhero as far as enjoying comics?
My favorite comics are actually the hard-boiled crime stuff.
Okay.
Like Brubaker and Phillips, some of the Ruckus stuff when he's not social justice warrioring.
Yeah, because we like that one, Black Magic.
Yep.
And then what's he do with that? He does 6 issues, and then I'm off to do Wonder
He only
Woman.
did 4 issues.
4 issues, and
Yeah.
I'm off to do Wonder Woman.
And took his artist with him.
Yeah.
So
Now, as far as current stuff, what do you follow currently on any kind of thing?
on any kind of thing.
Yeah. What is comic book wise? What are you following now?
I will buy anything that Ed Brubaker writes.
My Little Pony. He writes it. You're buying it.
If he writes My Little Pony, I'm going to buy it. Probably have Rainbow Dash, like whipping some pony butt.
There was a recent horror series, I'm trying to think of the name of it, that came out a couple years back that I really thought was really good. About this kid who left home, and he was riding the trains with had another friend that was riding the trains as well. And he ran into this old man. It was back during the 40s, maybe a little earlier. It still had horse and buggies, but there was also cars. You remember which book I'm talking about now? This guy he seemed like he was a nice guy, trying to help him out, but he wound up being just this monster. And he thought he killed him at one point as a kid, but later on when he has I'm giving the whole story away now, but later on when he has his grandson, they're at a park or something like that, he sees the guy again. And
Teeth?
I don't think it was Teeth. Oh, I don't remember it. I try to let everybody know what it was.
We'll figure it out and let y'all know what the book
Really?
was next issue. Next
The
episode.
art was beautiful. The story was really good. So if I can just remember what that was. I think it was actually somebody had posted a top 100 stories or something. I think it was in there somewhere.
And the art was kind of like kind of Ashley Woodish or Ben Temple Smith-ish. If I remember right. It wasn't a typical normal artist.
No, but it wasn't quite as.
It was a moody art.
It was a moody art. It wasn't quite as
Sketchy.
as those guys that you just mentioned art is. It was. You could definitely make out the characters,
But as far as the stuff I buy right now, like I buy no DC books.
Why don't you like DC?
I love Batman and the Spectre.
Okay.
But I had to cut something, and I hated the New 52. So once they canceled Catwoman, I was done with DC because they never use the Spectre anymore
But she's coming back.
for a one shot.
I think she's in the next Batman storyline coming.
I don't want to buy a whole Batman book just to get 8 pages of Catwoman. I probably will though.
another one I read that was probably back in quite some time ago. I thought was really good. Blood and Water. I don't think a whole lot of people have read that.
That was about the vampire families, wasn't it? They were kind of like running the cops and had the.
Isn't that Bike Club?
No.
You're thinking of Bike Club.
That's much newer. This one was a little bit further back than that. But Blood and Water, yeah, definitely really good. And it's not that long of a series. It's a mini-series. Definitely
Bike
read
Club
that.
was Vampire Mafia.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a fun book.
Dayman was good. Kind of about vampires.
Yeah, just that lull in between
Right.
issues. I mean, it was
Damon
like
was
6
good.
months in between issues. Killed its own momentum. That's the thing that comic companies will never learn. Get your books out on time and they'll sell better.
There's one that came out recently that I thought was pretty good. Stupid title, but it was pretty good, called Undying Love.
Okay.
Definitely a good little horror read.
We haven't mentioned the Pacific, the Twisted Tales or
No, we haven't. I mean, that was basically
Twisted or Twisted Tales.
Pacific stuff was kind of a throwback to your Golden Age stuff. Just beautiful art, really good stories. The Alien books as well for your sci-fi.
Right.
Kicking that.
Alien Worlds.
Alien Worlds. So yeah, Pacific stuff was really good.
And they had top-notch artists on them. I mean, Kaluta and Dave Stevens, Bernie Wrightson, Richard Corbin.
Now, would you put Walking Dead into a horror category or no?
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, a lot of
Or
people,
more of a zombie.
it's a
No, it's a
zombie.
horror. It's a horror.
Yeah, it's
Zombies are horror.
Yeah.
But the zombies in Walking Dead really are not the story.
They're
Right.
just a plot device.
Yeah, just the main story, the horror, is what actual humans in these crazy situations do to each other.
Right.
I mean, they say it right there in like the first trade, at the end of the first trade paperback, he says, "They're not the Walking Dead, we are."
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, that tells you right there what kind of story it is.
And you discussing about Marvel going to films, this whole season of Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
is focusing on supernatural stuff. Ghost Rider has shown up, as we discussed. The Book of Darkhold we've discussed, previous episode is rearing its head there. So, I mean, you could really see some of the other characters show up. And with Doctor Strange, it opens up the magic world and to the supernatural stuff, too. So you may see more of that stuff.
Now, would you want them to redo a Ghost Rider movie?
If Marvel Marvel does have the rights. I would like to see them try it, just because we've got a track record with Marvel movies now that there really hasn't been a flop.
Are you saying Ghost Rider with Nick Cage wasn't the best? Would you
I
prefer Nick
enjoyed-
Cage?
I didn't hate the first
I didn't hate
one.
the
The
first
first one wasn't horrible.
It wasn't horrible.
The second one was pretty bad.
I had a free pass. I didn't go see it.
Can't
No.
even watch a free movie.
No.
I did, although it's not Marvel Ghost Rider, I did get to see when I was at OVCon this weekend some of the most beautiful Rosetta Ghost Rider covers
Oh, okay.
from Golden Age.
Which I'm sure they're known for more that era of books. You probably saw tons of horror books.
Yeah, Bedrock Comics was down there, and they had a lot of horror books. A gentleman by the name of Eric, he was there. He has just beautiful
Not
books.
this Eric.
Not this Eric,
No.
another Eric.
I don't have
Eric
any
Groves.
beautiful books.
Yeah, but yeah, OVCon was great for going to see Golden Age books. Kenny has a really interesting book, though. We can talk about that.
Okay.
I do.
You do?
Mhm.
He has an interesting Warren book,
What's your interesting Warren book?
Oh, the Warren Companion.
The Warren Companion.
Okay.
I
How
have
many signatures do you have?
34.
Oh, wow.
Now this didn't come. This only came signed by one person, right?
Right. That was probably, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
They collected all of the articles that, I can't remember what company it was. It wasn't CBG. Anyway, there was a comic book magazine, and they did a bunch of articles about all the Warren comics, and they collected them all in one hardcover and had Jim Warren sign the hardcover. And at the time, can't remember who it was. It wasn't Bruce Jones, but someone was at Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, and I didn't have anything for them to sign. So I was like, well, you know what? They worked for Warren, so I took it up there and had him sign it. Well, it just so happens that Bruce Jones was there, and he worked at Warren, so I had him sign it. And so now every convention I go to, if there's a Warren person there, I take it and have him sign it. And now there's 34 signatures, including Forrest Acker.
What's kind of funny is Buddy Saunders, who owns
My Comic
My
Shop.
Comic Shop, did some Warren work
Oh, wow.
as a writer. Yeah, and he's even signed it. And he looked at
Then
it.
he offered to buy it from you.
No, but
I'll sign it if you sell it.
Yeah, no, but he was impressed with all
Yeah.
the signatures.
I think you've had several of the guys that were very impressed with him. I
Yeah.
mean, it's an impressive display of signatures. I mean, it took a lot of work to get them too.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Joe Staton was afraid to even sign it. He was like, "How can you have me sign this? I'm not on these guys' level." And I'm like,
And
Yeah, you are.
there's a couple of guys that are like, well, I never worked for Warren.
"Oh yeah, Jim Steranko. I asked him to sign it, and he was like, 'What's that?' And I said, 'It's the Warren Companion, and I have anyone who worked for Warren sign it.' And he said, 'Well, I've never worked for Warren.' And I was like, 'Yeah, you did the cover of, I think it was Erie 63 or something.' And he stood there for a second. He's like, 'You're right, I did. Give me that book.' Steranko, if you ever get a chance to meet Steranko, it's well worth the price of
And the
admission.
ascot.
He's
Yeah.
And the
he's a bit of a
smoking
card,
jacket.
yeah.
I mean, that area you had, like you said, Swamp Thing, you had Frankenstein, Dracula, Vampirilla.
Well, like he said, in the 70s, they put out, like you were saying, Dracula. They did Creatures on the Loose.
Mm-hmm.
They did the Vault of Evil.
But yeah, the Vault of Evil, which was reprint stuff.
Towers,
Monsters,
Shadows,
Tower
Tower
of
of Shadows,
yeah.
Monsters on the Prowl,
The Living
Frankenstein.
Mummy,
Yeah.
And you had the Witching Hour from
Yeah,
DC.
DC did Witching Hour.
House of Mystery, House of Secrets.
Ghosts,
Ghost, yeah.
Unexplained.
and then of course Swamp.
Explained.
Swamp
Thing. Yeah. Just tons of stuff, tons of horror. If you
Yeah, then
read.
you had the Grim Ghost Stories by then Boris.
That was Charlton, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
Charlton.
Yeah.
What was it? Boris
Karloff.
Karloff.
Yeah.
Did some stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stories.
Who's your favorite horror narrator? All the horror books, not all of them, excuse me, but a lot of them had their narrator.
Like Creepy.
The host.
Right? Yeah, the host,
Okay.
like Abel and
Cain and Abel,
Cain
the Crypt
and Abel,
Keeper,
Crypt
the
Keeper,
Witch.
the Witch. Yeah.
A good modern horror book, that just reminded me, a good modern horror book to pick up is Haunted Horror from IDW.
Okay.
The Craig Yo reprints all those classic comics.
Classic, the non-EC horror stuff.
Right, it's
Right. Yeah.
the Eerie publications and stuff.
A lot of the early stuff that I guess no longer it's in public domain now.
Yeah, and
So-
there's even a couple of Matt Bakers.
Yeah, and even
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Eric Powell.
Powell. He's a good horror artist.
His new book, Spook House, which is all ages.
Yeah, I'm looking through this list of books that I have actually read that are recent horror books, and one of the first ones that popped up that I have been reading is American Vampire. That's very good. That's a very good read.
I started that. I made it through the first 12 issues and then couldn't find 13 and 14, so I gave up.
I think I made it through 6 or 7.
It was a good story.
It was Scott Snyder, so it's pretty good. Definitely worth checking out.
Really kind of got what he got to start on was that.
Witches was not.
Witches was not that good.
Witches
no.
was hit and miss, yeah.
No, it was just all miss, sir. Sorry. 2 of the 3 of us.
Beasts of Burden, I don't know if that's really horror, but
It's supernatural.
It's supernatural,
So you
yeah.
could throw it in with horror.
Dark Horse.
that is
Yes.
very good, yes.
And that is an excellent
Beasts of
book,
Burden is
especially
super.
if you have kids that want to
Yeah,
read
but
it.
still, it's creepy though. Because
It
think about
is.
some of the stories that I'm sitting there reading it, and just like, man, you have to think about these things. These animals are dead
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
some, so it's like, wait a minute,
Well, they mentioned Beauty. Beauty has been pretty good.
I don't consider Beauty a horror book. That's more sci-fi.
More sci-fi, yeah.
What else you got there?
I'm trying to find that one that I mentioned. I really did like that book.
Of course, Dark Horse did their own creepies and eerie's.
Right.
And there was at least one good story along with the reprint.
Right.
There were some stories in those creepies and eerie's that weren't good at all.
Well, they've also reprinted the Creepy and Eerie's from the 70s.
Right, and the
And
and
the
the
hardcovers
archives.
also.
Yeah.
So.
Which makes it pretty affordable. If you
It
want
does.
the
I mean, you get,
stories.
10 issues for $50? I mean, that's a lot cheaper than going really to find some of them.
And they've archived numerous times the ECs
How
as
much?
well.
49, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
Yeah, 49.
$50.
So you can always get the ECs, which you should get, not just for the stories, but the art is so beautiful.
Well, another big horror book that we hadn't mentioned, I just saw it flash up there. Remind me, it was Hellboy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I just assumed everyone knew about Hellboy.
Well, and actually, on the flip side of the BPRD,
Which you are a huge Hellboy fan, Captain.
yeah,
You sold him off with your Fantastic Four.
I actually, a friend of mine, I helped him get a run put together pretty well.
Oh,
So,
very cool.
yeah.
Hellboy had a lot of little mini series.
I have a Hellboy sketch.
What's your favorite, you had to recommend in particular, say like a a story out of Creepy or Eerie, just, one little eight-page story.
Jennifer.
Is there anyone you can recall?
Jennifer by Bernie Wrightson.
Tell us a little bit about Jennifer.
They made a
What issue was it?
I have no idea. They made that old Masters of Horror show that I think it was HBO or Showtime did.
Right.
They did a little movie of Jennifer, and it's great. This guy's out in like a campground or something, and he sees this man dragging this girl over to a log, and he's about to cut her head off. And so he goes and kills the guy, saves the girl, and takes her home, and she's like this kind of like alien creature or something. She's got these huge eyes. Basically, she ends up controlling the men and all their actions, and they finally figure out what she's doing. And I don't want to spoil the end, but it's a great story. You should check it out. Plus Bernie Wrightson.
Right. Well, speaking on the Wrightson,
I think it's Bruce Jones that wrote it.
It's not from Creepy. It's basically Creep Show. Stephen King.
Yeah.
Wrightson did those. And one of my favorite stories in that.
Good luck finding them.
Yeah. Well, it's the guy that cheated on his wife, or no, he went to kill his wife and buried her in the sand, and she comes back.
A horror story we have to mention on here is there was a book called Splatter, and in the Christmas special, local legend Mike Roberts wrote a story about
and that's my favorite issue. In fact, I wish I still had it.
A woman cheats on her husband, and she's allergic to peanuts, and the husband fed the
husband's the bartender, and he feeds the
guy
peanuts.
that she's cheating with peanuts, and that was a great story.
Yeah,
not for kids.
No, not really. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Would you consider Hellblazer?
It's dealing more.
Consider that kind of like I consider Supernatural. Is that really horror?
Well, Kenny's a big Goon fan as well.
The Goon is great. I don't know that it's horror as much as it is crime, but, there's Walking Dead or I should say zombies. There are horror creatures in it, but it's more of a crime book and good humor.
Yeah, you said it's pretty humorous.
Modern horror you were discussing, Terry?
A series we forgot to mention, Lock and Key.
Yeah, I was looking for that one book, and I remembered Lock and Key. Yeah, Joe Hill. Lock and Key is a really good book.
And he's related to who?
Stephen King, maybe?
Do you know why he uses the name Joe Hill?
Because he doesn't want to have anything to do with the Stephen King name.
He didn't want to build his career off of his dad.
Lock and Key, really good. Really worth picking up and reading. Just an interesting story about this family who inherits this house, and this house has all these doors that can be unlocked, and there's this, what would you call it? Sort of a demon, ghost, witch type thing going on, and she's trying to get a certain door unlocked to get in there. Well worth checking out.
And the keys are hidden all over the property, right?
Yeah, the keys. Yeah, just definitely check out Lock.
Weren't they going to make a TV show?
Yeah, they're going to make a TV. They did a pilot to it. I think they aired it at San Diego Comic-Con.
Do you know who was going to do it?
I think Fox.
Okay.
But they canned that particular pilot. I guess they didn't like it, and supposedly seems like somebody else is supposed to be picking it up. I haven't heard much. I haven't really looked into it or heard much here recently about it's still getting picked up, but here's hoping.
That'd be pretty.
The whole thing about Fox is their executives have so much turnover that by the time they get a show on the air, that executive is gone. So the new executive wants to can their stuff and
push his own
the old executive stuff and push their own shows. That's why so many shows only last a season or two on Fox.
I just really liked it, and they only did one issue because the company
really
tanked after that. It was a Harris comic, and the book was called Twisted, and it was about a serial killer who would run around and kill serial killers by twisting their heads, breaking their necks.
Kind of like a Dexter.
Yeah, and it came with a bag, and inside there was a newspaper with it talking about the killings and stuff like that. He got a hold of this one serial killer. He needed to help him out, and this serial killer would kill people and then drink their blood through a straw.
So wait, Dexter?
But they only did that one issue, and I'm hoping someday somebody will pick it back up and continue it, because that first issue is really good.
You want him to drink more blood out of straws?
Sure, more blood out of straws. But no, it's called Twisted or Twister or something like that. Pretty good little first issue and only issue.
We've mentioned Walking Dead, but Kirkman has another book, Outcast, which is dealing with horror and
that's now a series as well.
Right. And Chew, yeah.
Yes, Chew is a great book.
Another current comic that's really good is The Hunt. It deals with Celtic mythology.
In Chew, he's a cop, and he has some stomach problems, but so he only eats soup, chicken soup for the most part. And if he's able to taste a little bit of a dead person's body, and then find out what happened, what went on, really a little quirky, a little bit
He's
funny.
a connoisseur of corpses.
Basically, he's a connoisseur of corpses. But yeah, definitely check out Chew. It's kind of hard to. The number one's a little expensive, so is the number two. But go ahead and pick up the trade if you can find that and just read it. It's really worth
Say
reading.
the trades are very affordable. I think volume 1 of every Image trade is $9.99, except The Walking Dead, of course.
And you can pick up the Walking Dead compendiums though.
Yeah,
They're $50 for.
I see them a lot
Amazon usually has them like
online,
30%
fairly
off.
cheap. People reselling them. Like I saw one guy selling here recently the first 3 for like $50.
Another one we forgot to mention was iZombie. Although it's
Yeah.
not really horror, it was more of a comedy book.
Kind of like Chew, yeah.
It's more just quirky. I mean, anything involving Mike Allred's just going to be quirky.
Now, the TV show's been pretty good, though.
Yeah,
So-
it's Veronica Mars with zombies,
So it's only going to last 3 seasons. So
pretty much.
pretty much, yeah.
I think they're moving the night. I think they're moving them to Friday night. So, Kiss of Death.
Great.
It kind of reminded me when that came out. Sort of, I don't know why it's not exactly the same thing, but Dead at 17 was a good
Good comic series.
Dead
good
at
comic series to
17 was
read. So definitely try that one out.
That was really good.
Hack Slash.
Hack Slash was really good, yeah.
Dead at 17 was kind of a little different it was a little refreshing when it came out. I thought we've got a lot of books like that, or
Yeah.
more similar to it now, but.
Well, that thing, it was so good, but then it kind of went so far away from the original thing, I thought, But
What's
yeah,
that?
it was the Dead at the
Dead at 17.
17 horror tips.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what
for
other?
new collectors, as far as getting into it.
It's
you
all
said
just
Eerie.
lines on paper, folks.
My tip would go get the classic stuff. Go pick up an EC archive. Dark Horse is done. Read those.
Pick up some Afterlife with Archie. For
Pick
the
up
new
Afterlife
stuff.
with Archie, right? Find a Creep Show.
And the good thing about Afterlife with Archie is you have plenty of time to find the back issues because the next issue of it may not come out for another 6 months.
I saw recently though they decided they weren't going to put it on a schedule, so it's just kind
Right.
of when it wants to now, which is kind of
Which is kind of interesting. It's kind of like what we've said a couple of times before. Just put it out when you have a good story.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good story, why put that? I mean, I understand also that can hurt a book too because of the time delay. But I think that's if you have a story that's ongoing and then there's a time delay. But if you get to an end of a story, and you wrap it up, don't force out the next storyline
So don't
like
leave
like
everything
they
with
do
cliffhangers.
so much.
like they do so much. Yes.
Yeah, and the problem with that is it's Roberto Sacasa
Hmm.
is writing Sabrina and Afterlife with Archie and the Riverdale TV show.
And he was doing Glee for a while, and
Yeah.
I think he's done some Scream.
We won't hold that against him. Scream Queens is awesome, by the way. It's a hoot.
If you're a fan of horror, comedy horror, it's been good. It's been fun. The first
Yeah.
season's really good.
I would agree with that. Pick up some of the ECs if you want. You can either get them in trades. You can go to a lot of your local stores that have dollar books or cheaper, and you can find the reprints. You can start picking them up that way. Also, maybe just pick out your favorite genre of horror. So maybe you like vampires or you like zombies. And there's a book out there for you. Werewolves, whatever.
Don't be afraid to ask your local comic shop what they recommend.
Yeah. You can upstairs. You can ask Mike.
Mike does have some pretty good recommendations.
Mike knows a little bit about everything. So
And of course, he says EC, you say EC. I'm going to say get those Warrens, man.
Yeah, I agree. Creepy and I mean, the Creepy and the Eerie's kind of took over where EC had left off. Really, a lot of the horror comics they had to kind of tone themselves down there for a while because of the
Comics code.
the comic code.
So that's something we should discuss. Is,
Yeah.
the seduction of the innocent and the parade of comics and the Senate hearings about comic books and how they were going to destroy the Western civilization. And basically Marvel, DC, and Archie all ganged up and against EC. And if you ever read the outcome of the Senate hearings and what the comics code rules are, you can't have horror in the title. You can't have terror in the title. You can't have vault in the title. You can't have crime in the title. You can't have suspense in the title. It was like every title that EC had wasn't allowed by the comics code, and it basically put them out of business.
Now, isn't that why they did Morbius as a living vampire?
For Marvel, yes.
Yeah, for Marvel. So
Yeah.
that way he was alive and it passed a comic book.
Right.
A little bit of history.
I think that was the reasoning.
Mhm.
And
That way they could do it. Yeah.
so in the 60s, Jim Warren started the Warren magazine and actually got a bunch of the old EC artists to start it. Al Williamson, Frank Frazetta, Wally Wood.
And then he did it in a magazine format because he didn't have to abide by the Comics Code then.
Right.
So they could have plenty of blood and gruesomeness if they needed to.
Okay. Very cool. Anything else to add? Captain? Tickler, Kenny?
No, unless we just want to go into more history, I guess, of the golden age, like you said, the Senate hearings and what's the guy, the psychologist that came about, and
Frederick Worthing.
Frederick Worthing, wrote the book, and they had the hearing about it.
And what's funny is every time I hear the name, I picture the professor from Rocky Horror Picture Show. I don't know why.
Now, there's a story I can't remember. The EC guy, the main EC guy, what was his name?
Gaines.
William Gaines.
Was it? He went to this hearing, and they were showing several of their books on there, and they showed the book where the woman's got her head chopped off, and the guy's carrying the axe, and
Which is a classic.
it's a classic cover.
Marvel,
It's,
And
and they're like, "Well, do you think this is appropriate?" And he's like, "Yeah, for a horror comic, it is." So that's a great story.
Very cool. Captain, don't we have a drawing this week?
we do have a drawing.
Okay, this could be exciting.
Am I in
Another
this
winner?
drawing finally?
No, you're not.
No, you can't win, Terry.
Oh, but give me your hat.
They never let me
They
win.
need, they need your hat.
I need your hat. And Alan, sorry, you won last week, so you can't.
Did you
No,
ever give
Chris
Alan
won.
his
Chris won last week.
prize?
Oh yeah, Chris did win last week, so
Yeah.
Chris can't
Alan?
win. So Alan is actually into
Alan's
it.
back
yes.
in. Chris is out.
Did Alan get his prize?
Alan got his prize finally. It was a week delayed. I do apologize. It will let
Hey,
Kenny.
another good book to check out that I forgot about was Criminal Macabre. The
Yep.
Cal McDonald
Yes.
mysteries.
Draw one of those out of there, Kenny. If you pull Q, then we got to throw it back in.
Ryan C.
Ryan Chastain?
Ryan Chastain won.
Chastain? Very cool. What's he win, Captain?
Well, it's going to be a comic set, so I'll get with Ryan and figure out which one's Marvel, DC, or independent comic set. We'll
Now,
figure
that's
it out
one
here.
that you autograph yourself, right?
It is. All of them are autographed by me.
You'll personalize it
I'll even personalize it, yeah.
to them, and you'll even personalize by whatever name you
I
want you
will.
to sign.
I sure will.
Could you sign Jack Kirby? No problem.
Sure, no
Stay
problem.
away,
Kirby
no
did this. No problem, yeah. So,
Okay, very cool.
Make sure you sign it with
the
that
big,
Magnum,
yes, the big marker.
the big Magnum marker.
So definitely that time of year for horror magazines to start popping up. Read your horror stories and sit in when it's nice and cold outside, and then try to go to sleep like a baby.
Yep.
So for Comic Book Straight Talk,
And we'll do one more contest where we'll do the code word as being horror.
horror. Okay, that's a code word for this week.
Yeah.
So make sure you like the page on Facebook, share it. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. You can do it through YouTube. You can do it iTunes. You can Google Play, collecticon.org. For Comic Book Straight Talk, I'm Eric the Knucklehead.
Captain Dalian.
Terry the French Tickler, French,
Kenny.
And Kenny.
and Kenny.
Put your hat back, sir.
All right, thank you for